Molecular transportation from a linear timeline to a non-linear time frame, then split streaming them back into a linear timeline. That's basically what teleportation is. I know it sounds like science fiction. I know people have seen it on Star Trek, where they beam down to a planet, and other movies. And basically, it's not really science fiction because it's a fact that's going on just with advanced races, not with humans. Our quantum physics states that it's possible for human beings to be transported, but we don't have the technology as humans to do this yet. But they do. Okay, it's basically it's a process. In my case, what it's been is a process where I'm taken from the human linear timeline, okay? And a human linear timeline is set on a precise time frame, okay? We've got 24 hours in a day, 365 days a year, and it goes on a linear basis where we can't get back to where we passed. We can't go back in time yet, okay? Well, what they live on is a non-linear timeline, so they're capable of taking a person from a linear timeline at a precise date and time, taking them aboard a craft, keeping them for as long as they'd like to keep them, then putting them back relatively close to where they took them. Usually there's not too much of a ripple in time or too much of a disturbance going on, so they're able to do this. And it's happened to me several times in my life. Let's see. I've written about it in my book, Falling Skies. And it'd be in the beginning when I speak in my chapter called The Tree Fort. I'm a boy in my tree fort. I'm out there with my dog in my tree fort. And as far as I knew, I was out there the whole time with my dog sitting there watching the field, the kids playing sports. However, my mom went to the yard and she went out there and saw me gone and figured I took off to the field, and I didn't. But what these beings did is they took me. They took me from my tree fort and took me for however long it is that they decided to take me, then delivered me back to my tree fort with a very short period of time missing, so it wasn't too much of a ripple, enough that my mom thought I took off, but I didn't. So that was the first incident that I remember of ever being telepathically transported or molecularly transported. I was also taken in the mountains when my brother and I were up there at Manor Lane in Petaluma, California. And we were at the back of his car listening to music, and that's back when I smoked, and we were smoking cigarettes while our dates were sitting in the car. And basically we were there, and my brother and I saw the huge orange orb behind the tree, a big tree, and it kept growing bigger and bigger, and finally my brother said, let's get the hell out of here. And we'd been listening to a tape it was a double-sided tape of Thin Lizzy, Live and Dangerous is what was playing in our tape deck at the time. And basically, when we got back in the car, the girls were furious. They said they went and looked for us everywhere, and they couldn't find us. My brother says, you're morons. We're right back in the trunk of the car listening to music. And they said, no, you weren't there. We looked everywhere for you. Where were you? And basically, it got turned into this big thing. And then my brother said, who stopped my tape? And they said, your tape stopped on its own. Basically, it played like a Live and Dangerous album, which was it's close to an hour long, that album, I know that. So there's at least that amount of time that was missing, but it's not a huge ripple. We don't know exactly how long they kept my brother and I, but they did. Also, I was taken from the field in my book, Falling Sky, also a chapter titled Contact, when I was confronted with a huge orange orb again in the field. And I went outside like a fool, and I got taken in that craft, and I was transported. Okay, they brought me in that craft, and I was up there while they did the procedures with activating my pineal gland, my also putting the implants in my sinus cavity and in the back of my neck, and basically did some other things, and basically had a short conversation as far as I knew. But yet I woke up in my bed, and it was 8 o'clock in the morning. So somehow along the way, around 2 a.m. turned to 8 o'clock. So apparently they transported me long enough that to do something with me, but not enough that to make a difference in my life. In other words, when I woke up in my bed, my wife was actually out making breakfast in the morning, so she didn't notice me missing, so they apparently put me back in my bed. So there's not much time missing. I don't know how long they kept me there either, exactly. Also another time, when I saw a gigantic triangle craft that was as large as our 7-acre parcel on our property. Wingspan was huge, and it hovered above me for quite some time, and it seemed like probably about 20 seconds, 30 seconds, and then all of a sudden it flew off over the mountains, disappearing. It didn't just fly off as it hit the edge of the mountain, it vanished from the sky. And basically that craft, when I was taken aboard, there was 45 minutes missing apparently when I went to work, and I was actually late for work. And something like that, 20 or 45 minutes. I can't be precise right on this always, but basically it took me from that parking lot, transported me aboard that craft, and then slipped me back into a close enough precise time to get me back to work. I was a little late getting to work that day, and the first time I was ever late getting to work. Okay, I was also taken from a car as I was going to work again in the morning to Chapter Terra Drive in the same book. I was taken off the side of the road, my car put out in the field. That's where friends saw my car, work buddies, when friends saw my car out in the field. I was nowhere in it. They had taken me from the back seat of the car and brought me aboard the craft again, and that's in my chapter of Terra Drive. If any one of you want to read about these incidents, they're in my book, and my audiobook is available free, and so is my my actual book, Falling Sky. They're available free on Facebook, so you're welcome to read them anytime you want to for free. I was also taken in a barn where I grew up as a child, where I had my photography darkroom. We returned back when my niece was getting married quite a few years back, and I said I want to stop by the old barn and shoot some pictures in there. Well, I pulled off into the driveway, and while my family sat in the car, I went into the barn and I said I'd be back within 5 minutes. And so I go in there and I snap 10 images in there. And I know I wasn't gone very long, but the camera proves 10 images, okay? When I get back to the car, I was probably gone, I'm guessing, somewhere around about a minute and a half. That's all it took me to shoot 10 images. I knew what I was shooting at. And basically, when I got to the car, they said, "What took you so long?" He said, "You're in there for over 5 minutes." I said, "No, I wasn't. I couldn't have." They argued with me. They said, "You were." They'd even moved in the car from one spot to another. When I got out there, I thought, "Where'd they go? They leave me here or whatever?" I mean, no, I don't think they would do that. And they were parked off in the back by the blackberry bushes, where the blackberry bushes were. And anyway, that was that incident. But when I got home and I looked at the camera properties and on the images I got, because I captured images of orbs, beings, and things like that in that barn. And basically, on each image, it was modified 1 second before it was created. And it made no sense to me. And when I called the Canon Corporation, because I wondered how that could happen, I spoke to 3 different individuals at the corporate office, and they said it's impossible. You cannot modify an image a second before it's created. It can be created, then modified, and the time should represent that. But every one of these images in that barn, it's the only time this camera ever did this, shows the images modified 1 second before they're created. So it shows that they're modifying these images to place themselves into these images, and there's missing time that day in that barn. So they were taking me from that place in time, bringing me to wherever they brought me to, and putting me back into that place in time with relatively a very small amount of time missing. So basically, they are capable of taking us from this world to another place, bringing you back, and they could have you in that other world 100 years, who knows? 2 hours, who knows? 2 weeks, it could be any amount of time, and bring you back to that precise time on your linear timeline, and you wouldn't have aged at all, because their time is our time is ineffective according to their time. So quantum physics does prove this. I'll say it again, I'll reiterate it. So basically, I want to explain what it feels like to be teleported, because I've actually experienced it, and a lot of people never have. What it felt like to me is the first thing I usually feel is hot flashes, like the room's getting warm or what have you. You know, those hot flashes that you get, and then suddenly it's like confusion sets in, like you just don't feel quite right. And then what usually happens to me is everything starts turning bright white. Then I black out, and I come back from the blackout stage to a bright white, and now I'm in a different room, and the confusion still sit in it, and they're in an alien environment, literally an alien environment. Most of the time was a very bright setting with white bright lights, and that's how it happens. And when they transport you back, it's the same thing. They're pretty much done, and they don't say much, and you're going back. And your memories are what your memories are of it. And I've written about my memories. I'm not going to get into them in this episode, but I will go through a lot of things later on. But that's how it feels to be transported. Hot flashes, confusion, bright light, than blacking out. When you come to, it's kind of reverse from the blackout to the white light, and kind of a simmering down to the hot flashes and the confusion. And the next thing you know, you're confronted with beans. Usually that's how it's happened with me. But I wanted to share that because it's probably interesting to a lot of people. To me, it was always frightening when it happened, because you don't know exactly what's going on. But hey, that's how they do it. And if you're going to be abducted or taken or contacted, that's how they're going to do it. Some people have a problem with the term abduction. I used to use that term a lot, but I do consider it more of a contact when they contact me, because they usually have a reason for contacting me. So I no longer feel like I'm being abducted. But I see why a lot of people say they felt abducted, because in the beginning, when I was a young man, I felt like I was being abducted, and I don't know how else to put it. And once you get used to it, you start realizing it's actually a contact event. But I wanted to share that, and thank you for listening.